Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is YOMA Yud Beis. We're right on top of the Amid. On that first line says the Gemara, "U'dekrachim ein metami b'negoyim." We're picking up where we left off yesterday. According to Shitas Rabbanon, a Beis HaKnesses has no mezuzah. A Beis HaKnesses has no potential tumas negoyim. And the reason is because it's not a designated mokim dira. It doesn't have a defined and specific owner. Rashi says, "Ein lo balam miyuchadim." It's a publicly accessed facility. It's a place to daven. And therefore the Gemara tells us, mezuzah, which needs to be mezuzah speisecha, needs to be a mokim dira, something which has a defined and specific owner. If his Knesset doesn't conform to that, therefore there's no mezuzah there. Likewise, negoyim, which only apply to something which is considered achuzaschem, base eretz achuzaschem. It has to be your domain, your territory, your possession, something which is specifically yours. But a shul, Beis HaKnesses, Beis HaMedrash, these public areas, they're public domain, they're not considered your dira. They're not miyuchat to you, and therefore there's no mezuzah, and there's no tumas negoyim. However, the Gemara tells us it depends where the Beis HaKnesses is situated. If it's in a small time kfar, that's considered like a shutfus, merely like an ownership. And we learned yesterday a Beis HaShutfin is chayiv mezuzah and has nega. It's jointly owned by the members of the town. That's okay. But if it's sitting in a krach, in a large-sized town, an international city, accessed by wayfarers coming and going, that's considered a mokum tzibur. That's considered publicly owned, and it's not considered something which has a specific owner, as Rashi used the words, ein lo balam miyuchadim, and therefore it doesn't constitute a proper mokum dira, a proper achuza, a proper bayis, and the fact that it doesn't have a defined, designated owner exempts it from nega and from chiyuv mezuzah. Says the one on the top line, "U'dekrachim ein metami b'negoyim." Do you mean to say if Beis HaKnesses situated in a large city is not tummy through nega? Vatani, we have a brisa which tells us otherwise. Achuzaschem is the pasuk referring to nega in a home. The pasuk says, "V'nosati nega tzaras beveis eretz achuzaschem." It needs to be your territory, your possession, your domain. Achuzaschem mitama b'negoyim. Only if it's actually yours, then it has potential tumas negoyim. If ein Yerushalayim mitama b'negoyim, but a home in Yerushalayim cannot have tumas negoyim. The reason is because Yerushalayim was not split amongst the Shvatim. It remained an international city. All Shvatim had joint ownership in Yerushalayim, joint access, joint use, and therefore it's not considered miyuchad. It doesn't have a balam miyuchadim, and there's no tumas negoyim in Yerushalayim according to Tanakama. On Rabbi Yehuda, I disagree. Ani lo shemati. I only heard that there is an exemption from negoyim only elo mokim migdash bilvad, only in the actual Beis HaMikdash. That's different because that was jointly financed by all of Yisrael. David HaMelech, when he purchased the granary from the Sar of Yevusi, Arvoina HaYevusi, and collected 50 shekel per shevet for a total of 600 shekalim to finance the building of the Beis HaMikdash. So that's considered to be jointly owned by all Yisrael because it was financed by them. But Yerushalayim in general was split amongst the Shvatim. Part of it was considered Yehuda's territory, part Binyamin's territory, and it has balam miyuchad, it has a designated owner, and has potential tumas negoyim. According to Tanakam, Yerushalayim is exempt. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it has negoyim. Says the Gemara, let's make a diuk. Only the Mokim Migdash is pater from nega according to Rabbi Yehuda. What about shuls, whether in Yerushalayim or elsewhere? Habat in Yosiyas, who butter and midrashas, mitamer b'negoyim. According to him, a shul can have tumas negoyim. V'afagav dekrachim ninu, although they're found in large cities. Apparently, even a Beis HaKnesses in a large city is chayiv in mezuzah and can have nega. It's considered to to be jointly owned by whoever built the shul, etc., and it's considered a Makom Dira. Answers the Gemara, Ema. Let's reinterpret Rabbi Yehuda. Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Ani lo shamati. I only heard that there's an exemption from the Goyim, Ela Mokim Mekudash Volvad. Unless it's a Mokim Mekudash, it has Nega. I mean, Yerushalayim has Negoyim, but a Mokim Mekudash, a place that has Kedusha, such as Beis HaMikdash, or a Shul, a Beis HaKnesses, or a Beis HaMedrash. There will be no Tumas Nega in that place. So, at this point, if it's a Shul, a Beis Medrash, or Beis HaMikdash, there's no Tumas Negoyim. It's not considered to have a designated owner. But Yerushalayim, well, that depends. If it was split territorially amongst the Shvatim, then there is Tumas Negoyim. That's Rabbi Yehuda Shita. According to Tanakama, it was Lo Nischakel Shvatim, and there's no Tumas Negoyim. But Ma'akem Miflagi, Tanakama, what's the basis of this machlekes? Tanakama Savar, Yerushalayim Lo Nischakel Shvatim. Tanakama holds Yerushalayim was not split. It was not divided amongst the Shvatim. It remained a jointly owned and operated city, in which case all have access, all have usage rights to Yerushalayim. And it's not considered achuzas chem. It's not yours. It's not, doesn't have a defined, designated owner. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Yerushalayim is chakel Shvatim. He also was divided amongst the Shvatim. Part of it belonged to Yehuda, part of it to Binyamin. It's considered your place, and Nega will apply. And of course, if you look in the Sefer Yeshua, you find that all of Eretz Yisrael was divided amongst the Shvatim. Asks the Chazon Ish, what does the Gemara mean? It wasn't l'schach l'Shvatim. The Pesukim seem to indicate otherwise. Part of Eretz Yisrael, part of Yerushalayim was given to Yehuda, part of Binyamin. He says, of course, the actual territory, the actual nachla, the inheritance, the possession was certainly granted to these respective Shvatim, considered their estate. But when we say Lo Nischach L'Shvatim, we mean to say it wasn't given to them completely. It was given conditionally. Sure, it's your estate, it's your territory. But all of Yisrael have access, they have usage rights. In fact, we're going to see that you can't charge rent during the Yomim Tovim, because all visitors have full usage rights in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, according to this sheet. So this is the machlekes. According to Tanakama, Lo Nischach L'Shvatim, it wasn't granted completely to the Shvatim, in which case all of Yisrael have usage rights, and it's considered a public area, public domain. There's no nega in this place. It's not achuzas chem. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, it wasn't Nischach L'Shvatim. It was granted completely and totally to Yehuda and Binyamin, each one had a chelik of Yerushalayim, in which case it has a defined owner, it has a balim yuchadim, and it has potential tumas negoyim. This machlekes is in line with another machlekes tanoim, who are also discussing this same issue. Was Yerushalayim split or not split? The sign. Mahayu b'chelkel shel Yehuda. Which part belonged to Yehuda? Let's start from Mizrach, go till Ma'ariv. Harabayis, Halishkos, Vazoris, that belonged to Yehuda. That was his personal territory. It wasn't a schaltim, chelkashid, it's his. He has complete access. It's exclusively his. Umahayu b'chelkel shel Binyamin. Which portion belonged to Binyamin? Ulam. So past the Azara, now we're going to the Ulam, Behechel, Beis Kodesh HaKadosh. That part of the Beis HaMikdash, that land, was part of Binyamin's territory. Now what about the place in the middle, where the Mizbeach stood? So there was some sort of confusion. Part of it was Binyamin's territory, and part Yehuda's. There was a small strip of land protruding from Yehuda's territory. So Yehuda was the eastern side, and there was a ritzua sticking into Binyamin's territory, so going towards the west. Into Binyamin's chelik, on which the Mizbeach was built. Meaning like this, Mizbeach was actually built on Binyamin's nachla. This was a kiyum of Yaakov Avinu's promise. He says, Le'erev Yechal Shol, the psukim over there in Vayechi tell us that Yaakov Avinu promised that Binyamin will host the Mizbeach. Now the Mizbeach, on its very bottom, had something called a Yisoid, sort of foundation, which was sticking out of the Mizbeach, an Amma on each side. So you have the Mizbeach, and the bottom, towards the floor, you have something, a Yisoid sticking out. Now potentially the Yisoid will surround the Mizbeach on all four sides. However, there was a problem. Because there was a ritzua, a small strip of land coming from Yehuda, protruding into Binyamin's territory, which hugged the eastern and southern sides of the Mizbeach, the Mizrach and the Dar. And therefore there could not have been a Mizbeach on that tract of land. So that's where the Yisoid should have been, and therefore there was no Yisoid on Mizrach and Dar of the Mizbeach, because the Mizbeach and all its parts were meant to be situated on Binyamin's territory. So the actual Mizbeach was on Binyamin, as well as its Yisoid, but because on the Mizrach and Durham of the Mizbeach we had a Ritzua surrounding it, a Ritzua of Yehuda surrounding it, that area could not have had any Mizbeach on it, and there was no Yisoid on that side. So if we're working from east to west, Yehuda has the Arabayis, Lishkois, Azoris, stops right there. Then begins the Mizbeach, which is in Binyamin's territory, which continues onto the Heichal, Kodesh HaKadoshim. Problem is that on the eastern side of the Mizbeach, and on the southern side, Mizrach and Darim, there was a small piece of land protruding out of Yehuda into Binyamin, and that precluded any Yisoid from being built and positioned on that spot, because the Mizbeach in its entirety was meant to be on Binyamin's territory. So again, Ritzua is Yotzim Mechalka Yehuda v'nichneses lechalka Binyamin u'bayu Mizbeach banu u'Binyamin at Tzadik hayu mitztayr aleh Binyamin at Tzadik. He had Ruach HaKodesh, and he foresaw that there was a small strip of Yehuda's land sort of interfering with the Mizbeach, with his ability to completely host the Mizbeach. And he perhaps viewed it as a chesarn in himself. Why can I not completely host the Mizbeach? He was mitzvah, he was in distress about it. On a daily basis, he was seeking to swallow it. He wished that he could overtake that strip of land to have the Mizbeach completely built, and built on his territory. Shenemar chayfiv olav kol hayoyim. Rashi says chayfiv, like a person who's scratching, scraping himself, rubbing his hair, in distress and anxiety. So he had that yearning to be the one, to be the host of the entire Mizbeach. And on account of that yearning, he was zoicha to something special. Lefichach zocha Binyamin atzadik v'nase oish bizchan legvur. He became the host for Gvura, referring to the Aron, which has the Luchit, which has the Shechina, which was actually situated in his territory, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Shanamar being safe of Shachen, referring to the Shechina resting between the shoulders, referring to the Shechina resting in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in Binyamin's territory. So according to this Tana, Yerushalayim, and even the ground beneath the Beis HaMikdash, was granted to these respective Shvatim, Pata Yehuda, Pata Binyamin. He holds Yerushalayim was in Schakal Shvat. V'hai Tana Savar, but the following Tana holds Yerushalayim lo in Schakal Shvatim. Yerushalayim was left international, was not territorially granted to any Shevet over the other. The Sanya, as we learned, Ein Ma'askirin Batim Yerushalayim. We're not meant to rent out homes in Yerushalayim. The Mepharshim explain it's referring specifically to the time of Yontif. You're not meant to charge rent from the Oile Regalim, because that was their right. Look, you build a house in Yerushalayim, fine, live there throughout the year, but it's on condition that come Oile Regal time, you'll host people in your home rent free, because it's not really theirs. Now, he's explained earlier, of course, it belonged to him, and it was his territory, whether Yehuda Binyamin. But it was given with the condition that Klal Yisrael still retains usage rights in Yerushalayim. So no rent for the other regular. Rabbi Lezer, you cannot even charge for them using your beds because the mokim under the beds as well belongs to them. So there's no rent in Yerushalayim. Because of that, the Chacham instituted some sort of practice where they would at least tip the owner, tip the host. Oireis Kadashim, the skins, the hides of the karbanis brought by visitors on Yom Tov. Balei Oish Pezichnen, the owners, the hosts, Noitlin Oistam Bezroid would rightfully, forcibly take that as a sort of pseudo payment for their services. Amar Abai Shmam, never learned from here. Although in this case it was instituted and it was halachically mandated, but generally we see from here that it is an appropriate practice to do that. It's derech eretz, to leave something behind for your host. Derech eretz, derech eretz lemishpak inish, that a person should leave behind gulfa, his jug or mashchan, they hide from his animal, if he has it. Lo shpizei, leave it behind for the owner, for the host. In that case we have machlekes tanoim, whether Yerushalayim was granted exclusively to Yehuda ben Yamin, or is left as a publicly accessed city, publicly used city, and there's no renting. So this corresponds to the shittas mentioned earlier, Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama, regarding whether or not Yerushalayim has potential tumas negoim. Behold, Yerushalayim wasn't a schalkel shvatim, then it's considered like it has specific designated owners, and there is tumas negoim. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shit. Tanakama holds it's pata from negoim because it's loines chakel shvatim. It doesn't have a specific designated owner. One more kasha, says the Gemara. Yesterday we mentioned that according to Rabbanon, Epis HaKnesses is pata from mezuzah, has no tumas negoim because it's a publicly used area. It's part of the public domain. It's not considered like a balam yuchadim, but if it's in a small-time town, in a kfar, then it's no worse than a partnership, no worse than a shutfas. It's not really considered part of the public's domain. A shul in a kfar can have tumas negoim. Vatani, we learned in a brayse. La achuza. Pasuk says, when you come into Eretz Yisrael, which I give you la achuza, it's your territory. We learn from here, it has to be yours. It has to be fully acquired and designated to you. It only works once they conquer Eretz Yisrael. So entering Eretz Yisrael is not sufficient. They have to actually conquer it and acquire it. Suppose they captured Eretz Yisrael, but they haven't yet divided it up amongst the Shvatim. Or perhaps they went to that stage. They divided amongst themselves to the Shvatim, but they didn't yet divide it amongst the families. So we have a tract of land per Shevet, but it hadn't yet been divided amongst the families within the Shevet. It's as yet undesignated, undefined. Or Chokul Beis Aves. They did go ahead and split it amongst the families. But within the family itself, they haven't gotten around to splitting it amongst the individuals. So it's as of yet still undefined and undesignated. Minayin, how do we know that there's no nega here? It's not considered miyuchad. The pasuk says the fellow who owns the house will go to the kohen and present him, tell him about the nega, and back home. We learn from here, asher loy habayis has to be miyuchad to him. Mishim miyuchad loy. It only works if the house has been designated to you. Yotzu Eila, as opposed to all these cases mentioned, Shem Yuchad Loy, they have not yet been designated. Although you have ownership, but it's an undefined ownership. And therefore there's no tumas negoim. Says the Gemara, why is a shul in a town any different? It's a mokim tzibur. It's a place where everyone comes to daven. And that should not be considered a mokim that has a balam yuchadim, a defined and designated owner. And why would it be chayiv b'mezuzah? Why would you say it has tumas negoim? Ela Machavarta says the more apparently the correct approach is Kedish Shanan Meikar, as we learned earlier. And the other two words in the Gemara, at the end of yesterday's daf, that a shul is only chayiv, a mezuzah, or could have nega, if it has a base dira lachazan. If in the shul there's a place of residence, a room where the attendant lives, yeah, then the shul is considered Makom Dira. But otherwise, just your typical shul that has no Beis Dira, will have no nega, will have no mezuzah, irrelevant of whether it's in a large-sized town or a small-time town, large-sized city or small-time town, because in either case, it's accessed by the public. The place meant to daven together, and therefore it's not considered a place that has a defined and designated owner. So conclusion, regarding Tumas Negoim, if it's a home owned by partners, two Yisraelim, yeah, that's okay. That's considered a place that has designated owners. Although it's more than one owner, but they both own it together. It's Balam Yuchad, it's defined and designated owners. Beis HaMikdash, according to all Shittas, has no Negoim, whether because it's part of Yishalayim, which was never really fully granted to individual owners, or whether according to Rabbi Yehuda, because it was financed jointly by all of Yisrael. And certainly, that takes on a different type of din in ownership, is jointly owned and operated by all of Yisrael, and has no Tumas Negoim. Regarding Yerushalayim of Machlekes, according to Tanakh, there's no Tumas Negoim because it still belongs to all Yisrael. It was Len Nischak L'Shvat. According to Rabbi Yehuda, has Tumas Negoim. Even Yerushalayim was Nischak L'Shvat. Regarding Beis HaKnesses, we learned that Rabbi Meir says Beis HaKnesses is no worse off than a partnership, and there is Tumas Negoim, according to Rabbanan. Whether it's in a large city or small-time town, there's no Tumas Negoim because it's not considered a place that has Baalim Yuchadim, defined and specific owners. It's a public area, it's a shul meant to be accessed by the public. Continues the Gemara, Umaskinin lekoyin achad. Mishnah tells us we designate a backup kohen gadol just in case something goes wrong with the original kohen gadol. Now we learned earlier back on Daf Dalet, there's a concept called riboy shiva. Rashi explained, in order to become a kohen gadol. So first, as Tosfos will tell us, the kohen, the melech, and the other kehanim would appoint the kohen gadol. They would verbally appoint him, but then he has to demonstrate his position. He has to go ahead and show that he's a kohen gadol, and we need that riboy. Riboy means he'll do the avodah with his 8 begadim, which is a visible demonstration and a confirmation of his position. Problem is, if he's needed on Yom Kippur, how is he going to have that chinuch, that inauguration process done? He has to step in right away to fill in for the kohen gadol who dropped out. It says in Pshita, in the following case, it's pretty simple. Let's say Iraboy Psul Koidem Tamid Shel Shachar. The first kohen gadol became puzzled before he got a chance to bring the morning Tamid. The morning Tamid is meant to be brought with 8 begadim. We know throughout Yom Kippur there was a back and forth between various begadim. At times the kohen gadol will wear all 8 begadim, which we call bigdei zav, and at times he would only wear the 4 bigdei lavan, the mitznefes, the ksainis, the mechanasnaim, the avnet, which were completely white, made of linen. So he would alternate between 8 and 4. Tamid Shel Shachar was to be done with 8 begadim. So if the second kohen steps in before Tamid Shel Shachar, the process is pretty simple. He'll just do the Tamid Shel Shachar with his 8 bigdei kahuna, in which case he's truly demonstrating that he's a kohen gadol. He's doing avodah with 8 begadim. Can't get better than that. So pshita, it's simply pashit in the case where ira boy psul kodim Tamid Shel Shachar. Suppose the primary kohen gadol encounters a psul before Tamid Shel Shachar, and the second kohen steps in. Mechanchen also, you inaugurate him by Tamid Shel Shachar. He wears the 8 begadim and does Tamid Shel Shachar, and then he's okay. That's pretty simple. Ela ira by psul achar Tamid Shel Shachar, but suppose the psul occurs after Tamid Shel Shachar, and now he's up to the next stage in the avodah of Yom Kippur, which does not require all 8 begadim, only requires 4 begadim. Bigdei lavan. What are we going to use to do chinuch for the kohen gadol to show that he's a kohen gadol? Amar of Adabar Ava be'avnet, through the avnet, through the belt, because on Yom Kippur, when the kohen gadol switches over to bigdei lavan, to the 4 bigdei lavan, the hat, the shirt, the pants, the belt, they're all completely white, made of linen, and different than the belt of a kohen hedit throughout the year, which is made of kalaim, colored wool and linen material. So the fact that he's wearing 4 begadim, all made of white, is a true demonstration of his position, the fact that he was appointed kohen gadol. Let's take a look at Rashi. So we back up around 4 or 5 lines up in Rashi. We see the Divra Maskal Babem Machan Chonois. So it's after Tamid Shal Shachar. What are we going to do now? What's the problem? The next stage of Avodah after Tamid Shal Shachar is merely done with 4 begadim. Ba'arba begadim, with the white ones. And it won't be visible that he's a kohen gadol. Ubamehu nikar. In what way would it be visible? Shu kohen gadol me'olam. Ve'echem yotzem hedyoitos. In what way does he leave the kohen hedit status? Interesting lashon Rashi. How's he going to leave the hedit status and acquire the higher madrega of kohen gadol? Shetei avodas hayom nas kohen gadol. To enable the rest of the avodah to be done with a kohen gadol. What way is he going to demonstrate that he's achieved, that he's acquired the madrega of kohen gadol? Ba'avneit. Ba'oisan dal begadam atzmeni shekel kohen gadol. Within those 4 big day love, we still have some hecker, something that sets him apart from the kohen hedit. Why? Because all 4 begadim, including the belt of the kohen gadol Yom Kippur, are made of white material. So when he switches over to the 4 white begadim, they're completely white. That's unique and exclusive to the kohen gadol. This fell until this point when he's still a hedyot. His belt, his avnit was kalaim, was colored kalaim material. The fact that he's wearing 4 begadim completely white, that's a true demonstration of the fact that he's a kohen gadol. Says the Gemara, okay, that works according to the shita that holds that a kohen hedit throughout the year wore a colored belt. This is really a machlekes. We had this earlier in the Masechta. Says the Gemara, that works according to the shita that avneitos shel kohen gadol zehu avneitos shel kohen hedit. Now the belt that a kohen gadol wears throughout the year, the colored belt, is identical to the avnet of a kohen hedit. All avnetim, all belts worn in the Beis Hamikdash throughout the year were all colored material. So this fellow until now wore a colored belt. Come Yom Kippur, he turns into a kohen gadol. He's holding by the avodas hayom. He needs 4 big day lovin, and they're all completely white, snow white. Pretty clear and evident that he became a kohen gadol. But according to the other shit, it says that all of the avnet of a kohen gadol throughout the year was colored, but it was not identical to the avnet of a kohen hedit, whose avnet was white, similar to his other begadim, which were white. So now we have no hecker. We have nothing to show that he's a kohen gadol. Because throughout the year he wore 4 big day lovin, including the belt which was lovin, and now he's again doing the same thing. He's wearing 4 big day lovin as a kohen gadol. Who knows that he's a kohen gadol? There's nothing to demonstrate that he's a kohen gadol. My ikalamema, what are we going to do now? On Rabbi, I have an idea. Although he doesn't really need to wear 8 begadim now, he's holding at the point where only 4 begadim are required. Let's make up. Let's initiate some sort of avodah that will require 8 begadim, and he'll do that at this point, thereby showing off that he's a kohen gadol and accomplishing the concept of riba begadim and chinuch. On Rabbi, loivish shmoina. He puts on the full gear of 8 big day kahuna gedola. Takes a tzinora, pitchfork, and flips over some of the eivarim on the mizbeach to expedite the burning process. And that's, although not required, but if it's done, it's an avodah. And since he's wearing 8 begadim, it's pretty clear that he's a kohen gadol. Rav Huna tells us, Zor sheipach b'tzinora chayiv misa. If a non-kohen enters and takes a tzinora and flips over the eivarim the mizbeach, he's chayiv misa because it's contributing to the avodah, to the akravas carbon, which is Zor may not do. Likewise, says Abai, let him simply put on his 8 begadim engage in this sort of activity, in which case he's displaying the fact that he's a Kohen Gadol, and then take off the 8, put on his 4, and continue with the Avodas Hayom. Rav Papa Amar says, I have another approach. Forget about the 8 begadim, that's not needed. The actual Avodah of Yom Kippur will provide chinuch, will inaugurate him. How does that work? Says Rashi up on top. Avodah Yom Kippurim atzma she'einu ksher el b'kohen gadol. Let's keep in mind, Avodah Yom Kippur was only to be done by a Kohen Gadol. The fact that he's engaging in this form of hakrova of Avodah, which is specifically designated for Kohen Gadol and only Kohen Gadol, doesn't that show that he's a Kohen Gadol? Why else is he engaging in this Avodah? So this in itself is a true demonstration of his newfound position. The fact that he's doing the avodah, which is a Kohen Gadol avodah, this in itself has an effect, a boomerang effect on him, and this in itself is machanachem to the avodah that he's doing. So it sort of happens simultaneously. The fact that he's engaging in Kohen Gadol type avodah, that in itself turns him into a Kohen Gadol and shows that he was appointed as a Kohen Gadol. Miloi Tanya, haven't we learned in a brisa in a similar fashion? All the klei sharas that Moshe fashioned, the fact that you anoint them with the Shema and Mishcha, that gives it kedusha. But that was unique to that period, to that time. Mikan ve'elach, past that point, all the other klei sharas acquired by the Mishkan, by the Beis Hamikdash, did not require applying Shema and Mishcha. So how did they become kaddish? Using them for the avodah Beis that in itself inaugurates them. So it happens simultaneously. Hachanam here as well, by Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, avodah machan chassid. In fact, he's doing this unique avodah, which is exclusive to Kohen Gadol. This in itself is a true demonstration and manifestation of his Kohen Gadol position. So in conclusion, how do we do chinuch on Yom Kippur? We have one of 4 options. If it's before the Tamid Shel Shachar, he puts on 8 begadim and does the Tamid. In which case he's doing avodah with 8 begadim, showing that he's a Kohen Gadol. If it's after the Tamid Shel Shachar, he puts on the 4 big day lovin, which includes a white belt, which is different than a Kohen Hedid. Third pshat, he puts on 8 begadim and his mahapech puts sinor on the mizbeach. Fourth pshat, the avodah itself is mechanachim, even if he's only wearing things that appear begadim, which appear like big day Hedid. 4 big day lovin, which don't set him apart from a Hedid. The fact that he's doing something which is only allowed to a Kohen Gadol, that in itself accomplishes chinuch. So now we discussed the material from which the avnet was made. So perhaps a short introduction is in place. We have different types of belts. We have the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. So when he wore the 8 begadim, of course, his belt was kalayim, like the other big days of. When he wore 4 big day lavan, we just mentioned, they were all 4 completely white, shal butz. There's no discussion regarding that. The machlekes is regarding the avnet of the Kohen Hedid throughout the year. This is really based on the psukim. We had this back on Daf Vav. It says Vayachar Oisam Avnet, which sounds like all belts are meant to be similar and identical to each other. We have another passage which seems to set them apart. So based on those psukim, we have machlekes. From which material was the Kohen Hedid's belt made of? Was it similar to his other begadim, which were all white? Or were all the belts made of the same material? And just as the Kohen Gadol's belt throughout the year was kilayim, likewise the Kohen Hedid's belt. They're all made of the same material. This is going to be a machlekes Tanai. Ki also Rav Dimi arrived from Eretz Yisrael. Omar, he related the following halacha: Avneit shekohen Hedid. From what material was the avnet of the Kohen Hedid made? The machlekes between Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon. Chadamar one says shal kalayim was made of colored material, wool and linen and kalayim. The Chad Amar shal butz. The other one maintains that it was made of white material, which is similar to his other begadim. Just like his mitznefes, his ksoinis, mechasayim was made of white linen. Likewise, his avnet. Why should we differentiate between the begadim of the Kohen Hedid? Now, we're not sure who said what. We have Rabbi Yehuda Kessler. This time will prove the Rabbi Yehuda Amar. Rabbi is the one who holds shal kalayim. that the avnit of the Kohen Hedit throughout the year was made of colored kalayim material, similar to the Kohen Gadol's avnit. How do you know Rabbi holds this opinion? This Sanya. Ein bein Kohen Gadol le Kohen Hedit el avnit. The only difference between Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hedit regarding Bigdei Kahuna is the belt. Divrei Rabbi. That's Rabbi Shita. Rabbi Lezer Shimon Omer Aflei Avnit. You know what? Even the belt doesn't stand between them. They both wear the same belt. Now let's try to analyze what's the Brisa speaking about. Emas. At which point of the year? He named Rabbi Shomer Sashana. We're speaking about the rest of the year. So the begadim worn by Kohen Hedit and Kohen Gadol are similar, identical, except for the avnit, as Rabbi says. What do you mean? That's the only difference. Tu ve'ika. There's so many other differences. Kohen Gadol mishamash v'shmoin. Kohen Gadol wears 8 begadim. Hedit ba'bon. Kohen Hedit wears only 4. What do you mean? There's no difference between the two. El alav Yom Kippur. Apparently, we're speaking about Yom Kippur. Since the Kohen Gadol alternates between 8 and 4, we're referring to the time when he's wearing 4 white begadim, the mitznefes, the ksaynis, v'chasayim, and avnit. The Brisa tells us, look, there's really no difference, not much of a difference, between the 4 white begadim that a Kohen Gadol will wear in Yom Kippur and the ordinary begadim, the 4 begadim worn by a Kohen Hedit. They're both white. The only one difference is the avnit. Why? Because whereas a Hedit wears a colored avnit, Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur wears totally white. And this is Rabbi's Shita, which proves that Rabbi holds the avnit of a Kohen Hedit throughout the year is kilayim. Amri the Bnei Yeshiva responded, no, not so fast. No, not necessarily. We could reinterpret the Brisa, in which case you won't have clarity regarding Shitas Rabbi as you proposed. Perhaps we're speaking about throughout the year. Brisa is saying there's no difference between Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hedit throughout the year except for the avnit. Your question was, there's much more differences. He wears 8, he wears 4. What do you mean there's no difference? The Brisa is specifically focusing on those 4 begadim which are worn by both Kohen Gadol and Hedit. Of course, the Kohen Gadol wears 8. We're not discussing all 8 begadim that he wears. We're focusing on those begadim which are worn by both Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hedit. The mitznefes, the ksaynis, the chasayim, the avnit. Regarding those begadim, there's really not much of a difference between the two, except for the avnit, according to Rabbi. Meaning that the Kohen Gadol's avnit is kilayim, and the Kohen Hedit is white. So perhaps Rabbi really holds that a Kohen Hedit will wear white avnit. Unlike your earlier suggestion, that Rabbi holds a Hedit wears an avnit of kilayim. So we're not clear about this. Continues the Gemara, now we'll have clarity. When Ravin came from Yisrael, he presented the Shitas with greater detail and greater clarity, that indeed Rabbi is the one that holds that a Kohen Hedit's belt throughout the year was made of kalayim, which is identical to the Kohen Gadol's avnit. Kiyasa Rav and Amar, he explained as follows. Let's go down the list. Avnei shel Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippurim. We know that in Yom Kippur, at some points the Kohen Gadol will wear 4 big day lovin, and his belt in this case was completely white. Divrei HaKol shel Butz all agree it was made of linen. There's no question about that. We have a pasuk which teaches us that everything that he wore was white. B'Shai Yomei Hashana, the Kohen Gadol's avnei throughout the year, again, there's no discussion there. Divrei HaKol shel Kalayim, all agree it's Kalayim. It's similar to his other begadim, and me'il, etc., which were made of wool, linen, colored material. So again, there's no machlekes. Lo nechelku, ella. When is the machlekes? Only ba'avnei shel Kohen Hedit. What type of belt did the Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Hedit wear? Bein b'Shai Yomei Hashana, bein Yom Kippurim, whether throughout the year or Yom Kippur. Rabbi Omer shel Kalayim. Rabbi holds, don't differentiate between belts. All belts were created equal. The Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hedit wore a colored wool and linen belt. The avnit was made of the same material. Rabbi Shimon Omer shel Butz. He maintains no, that the avnit of a Hedit was made of linen, was white, and different than the avnit of a Kohen Gadol, which was of kilayim. So it's pretty clear that regarding the avnit of a Kohen Hedit throughout the year, Rabbi holds it was made of kilayim material. Rabbi Shimon was made of white linen. Omar Nachmar Yitzchak Afanana Mitanina. We'll prove from our Brisa that indeed Rabbi is the one that holds this position. Avnit of a Hedit was kilayim. The pasuk here is discussing Trumas Hadeshin, where the Kohen would take a scoop of ash off the Mizbeach, Pasuk says the kohen is meant to get dressed. V'lovash hakohen midoi bad, u'michnasei bad yilbash absori. So he wears a shirt, he wears pants. And once we have the words absori, u'michnasei bad yilbash absori on his flesh, matam loima yilbash. Why does the pasuk say yilbash absori? He wears, of course. It's on his flesh, he's wearing it. Yilbash is extra to teach us. Lahavi mitznefes v'avneit laramas hadesh. Did Rabbi Yehuda? According to Rabbi Yehuda, Yilbash is coming to add 2 more articles of clothing. Although the pasuk only lists shirt and pants, Yilbash will add the other 2 begadim as well. The kohen needs to wear all 4 begadim, mitznefes, ksoines, mechnasayim, and avneit, to enable him for the Trumas Hadesh. Rabbi Daisa Emer, Yilbash is coming to teach us something else. Lahavi bigdei kohen gadol b'mekipurim. It's coming to teach us that the white begadim worn by the kohen gadol in Yom Kippur, although they cannot be reused next year, we'll learn this from a pasuk coming up in the Gemara soon. However, they can be used by a kohen hedyot. They can be recycled and be used by a kohen hedyot throughout the year. Shein share in the kohen hedyot, and that's what the pasuk Yilbash is coming to tell us. He can wear even those begadim already previously used by kohen gadol in Yom Kippur. Rabbi responds to Rabbi Daisa, look, I have 2 problems with your suggestion. One practically and one halachically. Shtei tshuvas b'davar. How can you say that the kohen hedyot will re-wear those 4 begadim worn by kohen gadol in Yom Kippur? Practically, it doesn't work. Chada, number 1, the avneit shel kohen gadol v'yom kippur. The avneit worn by kohen gadol in Yom Kippur, which was totally white, lo yizehu avneit shel kohen hedyot, wasn't the same as the one worn by kohen hedyot, who was meant to wear a colored kilayim avneit. So even those 4 big day lovin that the kohen gadol would wear in Yom Kippur, and he wasn't wearing his big day zav, were different than a hedyot. They were completely white, and are not roy for a hedyot who needs to wear an avneit of kilayim. It's pretty clear that Rabbi holds a hedyot to his kilayim. So that's Rav Nachman Yitzchak's right. It's a clear brisa as per Rabbi Shid. So this is my practical challenge to your suggestion. V'oid, number 2, how can you allow a downgrading of those bidei kahuna? Begadim shenishtamsha ben kedusha chamur. These begadim which were used for a very lofty goal, for a avoid of Yom Kippur, a high level of kedusha. Tishamash ben kedusha kal, you're allowed to be used for a lower level kedusha, for a simple avodah throughout the year. Not meant to downgrade a davar sheba kedusha. Therefore, says Rabbi, I disagree with your interpretation of the pasuk. It's not referring to the big day kohen gadol, which can be worn throughout the year. Ella, rather, matam adoyma yilbash. What is yilbash coming to include? The Rabbi says hashchakan, to come to tell us like this. You can use even worn out big day kahuna for avodah. Doesn't have to be fresh and crispy. It's fine. And that's what Yilbash is coming to tell us. Now, Rabbi Daisa was the one who said you can use the big day kohen gadol throughout the year. But Rabbi Daisa follows his shita, the sanya. V'nicham sham. The pasuk here is telling us that the white begadim worn by the kohen gadol Yom Kippur, when he's done, v'nicham sham, leave him there. What's the extra word? V'nicham sham, melamed shetun and gnisa. They must be hidden and cannot be reused. Rabbi Daisa Eimer, shleishtamish ben yom kippurim achar. Certainly they can be reused throughout the year. V'nicham sham is, they can't be reused next year in Yom Kippur. For Yom Kippur use, it's only a one-time use. But if you want to use it throughout the year, that's okay. And this is in line with his shita in the brisa earlier, that the word al-basar is coming to tell us that the kohen hedyot throughout the year can go ahead and wear big kahuna already used by the kohen gadol in Yom Kippur. Apparently, Rabbi Daisa is not concerned about downgrading here because you can't use them any longer for Yom Kippur. It's not roy for its primary designation. That's not considered a downgrade. At least let us salvage it for some sort of use and use it for the kohen hedyot throughout the year. Therefore, he says it's mutter to be used throughout the year for the kohen hedyot. So, in conclusion, once again, we have the avneit worn by kohen hedyot throughout the year. Is it kilayim or was it butz? The word yilbash by Trumas Hadeshen, what is it coming to add? We have several opinions. According to one, it's coming to add the other begadim not mentioned in the pasuk. He needs to have all 4 begadim to enable him for Trumas Hadeshen. Rabbi Daisa says to allow him to use Big Day Kuna Gedola, already used in Yom Kippur? According to Rebbe, the rabbis es hashchak. Tana Rabbanan ira by psul uminu acher tachtav. Suppose a psul occurs with the primary Kohen Gadol, and they appointed his vice president in his place. The reserve Kohen stepped in to fill his position. Now the first Kohen is back in business. He became tar. What happens now? Rishon choyzel avodasei. The initial Kohen Gadol is restored back to his position. What happens to the backup Kohen, who already achieves the status of Kohen Gadol? Sheni kol mitzvos kahuna gdola olav. According to Rabbi Meir, all obligations and privileges of a Kohen Gadol apply to this fellow as well. Once a Kohen Gadol, always a Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rishon choyzel avodasei. I agree that the first one is restored back to his position. Sheni, however, his backup, who already served, einay roy, lo igla Kohen Gadol, lo Kohen Hedid. He's not ready to serve as a Kohen Gadol or Kohen Hedid. So in contrast, Rabbi Meir says that he'll wear his 8 begadim and serve as a Kohen Gadol. Rabbi says no, he can't be a Kohen Hedid who can do avodah with 4 begadim because he's already acquired that position. He's already considered a Kohen Gadol. He's already been appointed. You can't lose that madreg. So as a Kohen Hedid, he can't function. Nor can he function as a Kohen Gadol. He may not do avodah at all. More soon will tell us it's because of Evo, concerned about generating animosity and other kind of competition, which is not healthy and not fair to the initial Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Yossi, Maaseh, in fact it was a story as such. Yosef ben Ilam Tzipori. Yosef ben Ilam from Tzipori was a backup Kohen Gadol. She'ir be psul b'Kohen Gadol. And that year there was a psul that happened to the Kohen Gadol. Uminu tachtav, and he was appointed in his place. And then the first Kohen came back to work. The first Kohen goes back and is restored to his position. Sheni, the reserve Kohen Gadol, the vice Kohen Gadol, in this case it was Yosef ben Ilam, ein aroi lo Kohen Gadol, v'lo Kohen Hedid. He cannot do avodah as a Kohen Gadol or as a Kohen Hedid. Why? Kohen Gadol mishum heva. He can't serve as a Kohen Gadol. It's going to create animosity. 2 people occupying the same position, not a healthy situation, and not fair to the initial Kohen Gadol. So he can't serve in a position of Kohen Gadol. He can't be oved with 8 begadim. Kohen Hedid. Why can't he be a Kohen Hedid? Too late. Mishum malan b'kodesh v'lo meridin. You only upgrade in matters of kedusha. But you don't downgrade. Once he's been appointed as a Kohen Gadol, you don't take away that madrega from him. Now, in case you ever wondered, how is a Kohen Gadol appointed? So Tosis Divrei Masal Kohen Gadol Mishum Evek says it's a very simple process. All you need was a verbal. All they needed was a minui bepeh, verbal appointment. Kohen Gadol mismana bepeh or mistalak bepeh. He says it's mistaver that the davar was tali b'melech u'be'echav ha'kehanim. The king and the kehanim would decide and appoint a Kohen Gadol, simply verbally appointing him. That was enough to make him a Kohen Gadol. So in this case, technically, you can go ahead and remove him from his kuna gedolah. All you need to tell him is, look, it's over. You're no longer Kohen Gadol. But we don't want to do that. Malan b'kodesh meridin, once he's been given that madrega, we don't want to take it away. So he's in limbo. He cannot do avodah, not in a Kohen Gadol capacity, nor in a Kohen Hedid capacity. In fact, that's the halacha. Rabbi Yossi would agree. Shim avar v'avad. Suppose the backup Kohen goes and does the avodah with his 8 begadim. Avodah kosher. Certainly it's kosher. Technically, he's still a Kohen Gadol. We don't want him to do avodah. We don't want him to generate eva, but he's still a Kohen Gadol. Amar v'damar Rav, halacha Rabbi Yossi. The halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi. Now, although Rabbi Yossi says at this point he should stay at the sidelines, but Rabbi Yossi agrees. She makes rishon, the first Kohen Gadol dies. Shechoyz lavedasei. Certainly the skan Kohen Gadol is restored back to his position, meaning he's allowed to go ahead and function in the Kohen Gadol capacity, because we never really took that away from him. It was only a temporary inhibition. He can't go ahead and create competition, but he's technically a Kohen Gadol. So when the opportunity presents itself again, certainly he becomes the Kohen Gadol. Pshita, of course, why would I think otherwise? Perhaps I would say, if we allow this to happen, if we allow the Sgan Kohen Gadol to wait on the sidelines for his day to come, it's going to create an uneasy feeling. It's Tzara. Tzara means a competing wife. A person has two wives. It's called that Tzara Zuluzu. So it's not fair to the primary Kohen Gadol to have somebody breathing down his back, awaiting anticipation for the day to come that'll pass away and will have to take over the position. Havil Tzara Machayim throughout his lifetime is going to create a Tzara situation. Perhaps we should not allow this to happen. Kamash Malon, we're not concerned. Sure, during his lifetime, we still tell him to lie low, but when the opportunity presents itself, the Kohen Gadol passes away, certainly he can take over and assume Kohen Gadol position. So, in conclusion, if the first Kohen became Pasul and they will man another one in his place, then the first Kohen comes back. Of course, he regains his position. Regarding the other Kohen, according to our mayor, he's considered a Kohen Gadol and does the avodah, whatever he's going to do. Of course, he can't compete, he can't do avodah Yom Kippur, but whatever he's going to do, he has to do with his 8 begadim. Rabbi Yossi says, no, stay on the sidelines, don't get involved, because we don't want to create an Eva situation, a competition situation, which is unfair to the original Kohen Gadol. Apparently, Rabbi is not concerned about Eva. Perhaps could explain it based on the words of the Rambam, who says that a Sgan Kohen Gadol was not just a reserved Kohen Gadol for a time of need, but actually he would stand on the right of the Kohen Gadol and give him kavod. So the Kohen Gadol actually got honored. He got kavod from his Sgan. It contributed to his kavod, to his honor, to his well-being. So perhaps Rameh holds there's no Eva here. His entire position is there to support me and actually gives me kavod. And therefore, even if he's going to go do avodah with 8 begadim, he doesn't view it as a competition. He doesn't see it as somebody undermining his position. He's fully comfortable with it and actually pretty pleased that he has a Kohen Hedi, a Sgan Kohen Gadol, who's standing at his side. Okay, time for a brief chazar of today's daf. We began with the concept of Yerushalayim, whether or not it was Nischal Kol Shvatim, and it has ramifications regarding Negoim. In conclusion, we learned that a home owned by Shutfin has Negoim. Beis HaMikdash has no din Negoim, according to all Shittas. It was a communal area, whether because the territory beneath it was considered public territory, or even if not. The fact is, it was financed jointly by Klal Yisrael and is considered jointly owned by all. And therefore, is not suitable for Negoim, which needs to be something that has a designated specific owner. Regarding a Nega in Yerushalayim, according to Tanakama, there's no Nega because it was not Nischal Kol Shvatim. It was considered a place which is accessed and used by all of Yisrael and does not conform to Hilchas Negoim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, Yerushalayim was Nischal Kol Shvatim and has Negoim. Regarding Beis HaKnesses, according to our mayor, it's no worse than a place of Shutfin and has Negoim and has Mezuzah. According to Rabbanan, regardless where the shul is, Krachim or Kvarim, is considered a communal area and is not a place that has Bala Miyuchadim and therefore is exempt from Mezuzah and has no potential Tumas Nega. How do they do the chinuch for the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur? We have 4 options. Either putting on the 8 big day kahuna before the Tamid Shel Shachar, or if it happened after the Tamid Shel Shachar, he puts on the 4 white begadim. Amongst them we have a white avnit, which is different than the colored avnit worn by the Kohen Hedi. Third option would be wearing all 8 begadim to engage in some sort of residual avodah, mahapach betzinor and mizbeach. And according to Rav Papa, the very fact that he was engaging in avodah Yom Kippur, which is something exclusively allowed for the Kohen Gadol, that in itself inaugurates him into that new position. We learned about the avnit of a Kohen Hedi throughout the year. According to Rebbe, it was Shel Kalaim. According to Rabbi Shimon, it was snow white, like his other begadim. Included regarding the backup Kohen Gadol, who's no longer needed. According to our mayor, he still serves, meaning if he does avodah, he'll have to do with 8 begadim, and he's allowed to do that. There's no concern about Eva. According to Rabbi Yossi, we tell him to stay on the sidelines and don't get involved in any avodah at this point. Why? Because technically he's a Kohen Gadol. He cannot be oved with 4 begadim. But we don't want him to do avodah with 8 begadim because it may generate a situation of Eva and animosity. Hatzlach Rabbi to you, Kol Tov.